Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I value this opportunity to raise the issue of business rates and its impact on the retail sector. The honourable member for North Norfolk has just raised many of these points, but I want to particularly talk about the value of retail during this incredibly difficult time. Our retail sector has been absolutely essential in helping many members of my community through this difficult period. And it's really shown as well the value of a strong retail sector in every town centre to building communities. And I think many of us who have been holed up at home for an extended period have really valued the opportunity to get out and about and to have that face-to-face contact again. And I think more of us are valuing it than ever before. And for this reason, while this is a very difficult time for the retail sector, I believe it's got a strong future because you can't replace the value of that face-to-face contact with an online purchase. And I think it's a tremendous boost to the well-being, and I think we've all become much more aware of the issues of isolation and people living alone, and how it is that a town centre really helps to build a strong local community. I think the other point I want to make about the retail sector as well is it's always been a very strong source of employment for many people, and local employment, which is so important for many people who find it difficult perhaps to access city centres. And I particularly want to draw the Minister's attention to the fact that it's a major employer of female workers, and that is such an important aspect as well of the retail sector. I think research shows quite clearly that the more women there are, that women in employment has a very strong impact on reducing the number of children in poverty. And that is why it's so important to support these sectors that support female employment. The rates holiday has been essential to helping our retailers survive during the pandemic, and like all members of the House, we've welcomed those measures from the Treasury. But I would really urge the Government to take this opportunity represented by this bill to reform the existing structure of rates to better reflect the underlying trading environment that many of our retail sector are having to face. I've already mentioned I personally would prefer to see that, yes, to push the revaluation back, but perhaps later in 2021 rather than 2023 for those businesses. And we might assume, for example, that there might particularly be more to be found in the North and the Midlands that are going to face a reduction in the value of their properties. It would be better for them to take advantage of that reduction in rates sooner rather than later, especially with regard to the very, very challenging trading conditions that everybody is going to be facing. And I echo what the honourable member, the member for Blackburn, said about more regular revaluations and how that will support our retail industries in a fast-moving property market. The member for North Norfolk also mentioned, and I think this is a really critical point for the retail industry at this time, and it would be great to see if we could take the opportunity to rebalance the burden of business rates away from our high streets, to recognise that our retail market is changing in favour of digital outlets, and that militates against those retailers who are still based on our high streets. I've talked about the value of a high street shop and a high street and maintaining our high streets, and we really need to see the government reflect that and support that in its rates policy. I obviously welcome the business rates review that is going on, and we plan to contribute to that. But again, I would hope that that could be done speedily so that we can see rates reform take place sooner rather than later as a better support to all of those businesses that are relying on rates reform to help them through. And I wonder if the Minister would perhaps consider a reduction in the uniform business rate from 50p to 30p to better reflect how much of the volume of retail how much lesser volume of retail is going through our high streets as people move to digital and online. Yes, of course.
Very good. That kind of change to the multiplier would cost probably about £12 billion a year. Has she any idea where she's going to get the money from to fill that gap?